So, the second episode of Lethal Weapon, the TV show, just aired. If you didn't catch my review of the first episode, it's up there. To give you the quick version of what I thought, essentially it came off to me like an American Idol version of your favorite song. It came off like the Glee version of your favorite song. Super slick production, all the right beats, all the right elements, hitting the right notes, but missing the heart and the soul of the original. You might hear it and you go, okay, I guess that's well made, that's well done, but I'm always going to go back and watch the original. And so going into the second episode, I went, okay, I'm going to try to be less cynical because I love the original films. Go into this just wanting to enjoy a TV show because I didn't leave the last one not entertained. I just left it going like, okay, if I compare this to the original movies, it doesn't add up. If I compare these two actors to Danny Glover and Mel Gibson and their chemistry, it doesn't add up. However, with all that said, if I compare this to just other TV shows, even TV shows that I watch, how does it compare to them? And using that standard, I'd say, okay, well, I probably enjoyed this more than watching Gotham, and I continue to watch Gotham. Whereas Gotham feels like doing homework. Watching this show, I just kind of enjoyed it and kind of anticipated the next episode to see just kind of where they're going to go with it. So with all that said, we've got episode number 2, and the episode picks up with kind of more compare and contrast the two lives of one crazy Riggs who lives on his own, sleeps naked on the beach, and a very suburban Murtagh who has normal kid issues and wife issues. His wife is worried about him as a cop, and she's even more worried about him because of his health issues, tripled up worried about him because he's now partnered up with a guy that's crazy like Riggs. And in a very short period of time of working with Riggs, they've had all kinds of hijinks ensue. So the boss is mad at him, wife is nervous for him. And of course, another week happens and more crazy antics happen. One of the things I said last week criticizing the show is that it felt like a watered down, neutered version of the original. Now, you can't do a rated R 80s movie as a primetime television show, so there's a lot that has to be cut. With that said, this week's episode, the inciting action sequence or inciting event that happens is a mass shooting at a party where a guy pulls out a gun and just starts opening fire on a crowd of people. And certainly it's not blood squibs like back in the day, but they've definitely, blood is shooting out of people's chests. Now, blood shooting out of people's chests does not make something a good show. It's not like I didn't like the show and then blood shot out of people's chests and so that it's good now. It's not like that. However, even doing a sequence like that in a television show in our modern context where there's a lot of fear of offending people and there's mass shootings and there's a lot of reasons why they would avoid doing something like this, that they would have the balls to do something kind of that certainly other TV shows, other movies have backed off. They were supposed to release a TV series of the show Shooter back this summer, and as far as I know, they pulled it from the schedule because it's all about, well, a shooter who shoots people and people getting assassinated, and they went, in this current context, political context, in this current culture, in this current zeitgeist, where there are these mass shootings, we need to back off and not do this right now. And I can respect that. But I can also respect this TV show saying, hey, this is the type of stuff that was in the source material that we're drawing from. And so these are the types of stories we're going to tell, and we're going to go for it. I can really respect that about this TV show. So go through the plot of it. Most of the chemistry rapport between the two main guys, it works. And there were several times where they kind of played on things that I had criticisms the first episode. The first episode is very heavy-handed in the handling of Riggs's family situation, the drama, the tension, the things in him that make him so crazy and unhinged because of the tragedy in his family. It's played very straightforward, direct. It just kind of puts it out there and tells you what's going on. This episode, it's much more subtle in how it deals with it, and even when he's like talking with a therapist, he just starts screwing around with her a little bit, and he starts giving a backstory of what's going on, and when I first heard it, I went, is this really where they're going with this? This is awfully cliche, this is playing out, and then there's like a twist in the scene where you see where it's going with it, and it's like, oh, I like that. That's actually really clever because you're playing against my expectations of what your show is, which I was expecting your show to be filled with these types of cliches and playing things this obvious, but you're not. You know that that's what happens in shows like this, and you flipped it, which is what the original movies did. It had Riggs flipping the formula that he was kind of, the cliches he was playing into as a character totally, it flipped him at the same time while using them. And this TV show finally did that. Or it's only episode 2, so saying finally is acting as if this has been a long time. So I'm going to say, going into the first episode, I got exactly what I wanted, or exactly what I expected, which was a watered-down version of the movies that played everything heavy-handed, played everything obvious. But I didn't hate the cast. I was a little worried about a Wayans brother playing Murtagh. Didn't really fit in the first episode, and he doesn't really fit in this episode either, if he's supposed to be playing the same character as Danny Glover was playing. All of that said, all of my preconceived notions, all of my previous criticisms of the show aside, if I took this show as a 21st century throwback action TV show to the 80s, so it's playing the buddy cop formula, it's doing a Lethal Weapon type show, but it's not Lethal Weapon. If I just watched it as that, do I like these characters? Do I want to see more of these characters? Yeah. Are they handling the action really well? Yeah. Does it actually feel like 80s action that's kind of ridiculous? Things happen that can't really happen, and it's over the top, but not goofy over the top because it's played so straight-faced. Does it have that vibe to it? It really does. Like, there's a scene in this where Riggs saves someone off of a rooftop and, like, involves jumping in the way, and I don't want to tell you exactly what happens, but safe to say what he does cannot happen in real life. It's totally ridiculous, and it's exactly like the type of thing that happened in every Stallone movie, the Lethal Weapon movies, the ridiculous stuff from the 80s. So if I take this TV show as just generic buddy cop throwback 21st century thing, I'd really enjoy it. So my biggest problem with it isn't what they delivered. I think what they've delivered is an enjoyable enough show. It's not great. It's not blowing in my mind. It's not trying to do anything original, but it's being a throwback to something that I really enjoy. The reason I'm critical of it is because they call it Lethal Weapon. So I naturally compare it to Lethal Weapon. In that case, it doesn't compare very favorably because that was so good. But just as its own thing, this new guy called Murtagh, who's the family man, I think he's an enjoyable character. Damon Wayans, I guess this is the first thing I've liked that he's done since In Living Color 25 years ago. So full credit where credit's due. I enjoy that character. I just don't think he compares well if he's supposed to be the guy that, I mean, technically he's supposed to be, but the character's different from who Murtagh was before. There's new elements, and he's a different guy that plays things very differently because he's Damon Wayans. He's not Danny Glover. And he's doing the best Damon Wayans of a character that he can, whereas Danny Glover's a great actor, so it's better. And so all that to say, moving forward, I'm going to change my thinking about it. I'm not watching this as Lethal Weapon, the TV show, though it is Lethal Weapon, the TV show. I'm going to watch it as generic throwback to the 80s action series. And in that regard, I think I'm really going to like this series. And if you can do that, if you can turn it off, just turn off in your brain that this is Lethal Weapon, I think they've got a really good show for you. I think the chemistry's working. I think the character development is working. I think the biggest problem this show has kind of made is things they did in the first episode where they assumed the audience was too dumb and couldn't figure out what was going on. They didn't trust their audience enough. And so they play so heavy-handed. Riggs is suicidal because his wife and kid died in the first scene. So we got to make sure everybody remembers that and put it in your face. And it is the opening scene. I think they ruined a great opportunity there because the way the show unfolds, if you just cut off that opening scene, and I even wonder if they shot it and wrote it without the opening scene of the series. And then they went, no, we got to add it in the scene so people know what's going on here. We don't want just a crazy guy in the show. If you cut that off, and the audience is learning about Riggs at the same time as Murtagh. So our Murtagh is our view into this world. So we're just observing things the same way that Murtagh observed things. This show would be better because there's a mystery to it. Like, what's wrong with Riggs? And even for fans like me who watched the original movies constantly, I literally watched the first movie 2 weeks ago with someone. I was like, oh, you haven't seen Lethal Weapon? Let's watch it. And if the person hadn't been tired, and if I hadn't been tired, like we would have watched like 2 or 3 of them and like up until like 4 a.m. For people like me, they could have even made it more interesting. Like, what if we as the audience didn't know that his child died until 2-3 episodes in? So we're watching it going, oh, okay, I'm tracking with you. But they didn't. They assumed too little of the audience. They assumed they needed to put it right in your face so you could track along with it. So they played it heavy-handed. And so, which case, even somewhat the perspective of the show is kind of missing. Murtagh's isn't our eyes into the life of this crazy guy Riggs. It's just kind of like we're seeing things, and whatever they want to show us, they show us. All that to say, I'm going to change my review of the show, my recommendation to, if you like 80s action movies and can watch this without comparing it to the original Lethal Weapon, I think you'll like this and I recommend it to you. It's a good, enjoyable TV show. I like it more than other TV shows that are out there. I watched the MacGyver pilot and comparing it to that, as long as we're doing this comparison game, MacGyver was like doing homework trying to watch it. It wasn't good. It wasn't faithful to the original. This one it's faithful to the original. It's just not a rated R thing from the 80s, but it's faithful in genre, in characterizations, to the best that Damon Wayans can be like Danny Glover, but it's faithful to it. MacGyver was... Liam, are you coming in again? If you like 80s action movies, this is a TV version of 80s action movies. It's buddy cop, two guys with rapport messing around with each other, and lots of action, ridiculous action, and there was even blood shooting out of people's chests, if that's what you need, which it helped me enjoy the show a little bit more. Yeah. This past week, I passed 200 subscribers, and I put out a couple of videos over the last few days that I put a lot of effort into, and I'd love it if you could check them out, comment, click that like button. The first one, I did a video called How to Fix Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's the video I've put the most time into, writing it, constructing it, recording it, and editing it. Very proud of the work I put into it. If you could watch that, like it, comment on it, I'd greatly appreciate it. I actually put good thought into it and actually tried to be concise with my thoughts, unlike this video where I just hit record and started talking. Please check that out. The second one, I did a Q&A video. If you want to learn a little bit more about me and hear me talk about a whole bunch of subjects with movies, with TV shows, anything people ask, I put all the questions in the description section, so you can just skip ahead to the ones you actually care about. Check that out. Comment on it. Ask me new questions. I'd love to do more of them if people actually have questions for me. Thank you guys for checking out this video. I do appreciate it. If you like my opinions on this stuff, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Thank you for watching.